Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. Today is 14th of Feb. We are doing the Hindu newspapers Delhi edition. Now, as part of our initiative, I make it a point to share questions for mains answer writing practice, and you can get your answers evaluated for free. Only thing is 2 answers per week, except for some question which I specifically say categorical that you can do this. This is that is extra. Right, so you have to share your answers in a PDF format. Write it on your pen paper. Do that. Share it with me on my WhatsApp or Telegram, whichever way, and I'll evaluate. And next day I'll give the answer, and it will not be shared on our YouTube videos or any public platform. This will be private, and I think feedback should be private. Okay, today there was a lot of advertisements with reference to IAS coaching and other things. I'll just tell you one thing, that this is not just a news initiative. We are covering the current affairs, which is linked with the static component. So like you can see in today's video also, so current as well as the static component. So this is being done. So as far as your current affairs is concerned, if you just maintain a register and write your answers, your notes are being prepared in a format in which you are going to write your mains examination. Plus, for writing your answers, you need to quote facts and figures, need to know about the initiatives, so you're preparing for your prelims. So entire current affairs is done. Only thing that you can do is, you need to cover the static portion nevertheless, and my experience says that NCERTs are more than enough. So NCERTs, and plus I would say you can take any initiative on any website, like there is Insights, Puram, IS Baba, where they have this current affairs type of questions. So daily those 5, 7, 10 questions that are there, that you can do. So that will help you better in fact finding for your preparation. Right, so this is all that is required, and you will not need to spend over ₹1 lakh anywhere. Okay, so today we have 3 questions. In fact, I could have asked more. So we have 3 questions. This is with reference to this building that was there in the news created by French. And I have a question with reference to why do we need to preserve Indian architectural heritage. A question has already been asked in that way. So we need to inculcate some thinking skills. Plus this will help us with your prelims preparation as to what has the government done. Okay. Then sometime back there was a news about Operation Earth, right? So there was a news about this, and this is a local news, but then I have a questions for mains, so this will help. Okay, then we have an article that is written by an IAS officer. I want you to read as to how a person in the services, be it IAS, be it foreign services, how do they write, because that will help you learn the approach to essay writing, because issue based, very simple way of writing, that's all, conveying the points or arguments that they have. Now semiconductor dream is something that is very important, not just with reference to India wants to focus on semiconductors, lot of schemes are coming in, but worldwide there has been a problem with reference to semiconductors, especially with the pandemic. USA is having a package of its own, European Union had it, so I think Friday or Thursday news we had covered this. So here I have a mains based question, right? And we always have aspects with reference to prelims, no matter which news it is, right? So pre is always taken care of. Okay, so now we have an election specific news. So this is about the fierce contest between state assembly elections are going on with Goa, Uttarakhand, and UP is already there. And I am in very close to Chandernagore. I have BJP flags all over my place, right? So taking place in 5 assembly elections. Now here what I came to my mind was that, and this is something that you also need to do, you can actually refer to the Goa and see on the atlas the important issues that are there. For example, there is a river, you can write down in the comment section. So those issues can be asked in your prelims, those rivers or certain specific issues. For example, today I have done with reference to Uttarakhand, and that will give you an hint. So with reference to Uttarakhand, one of the issues with reference to that election that is going on, it is with reference to, there is this complaint with reference to Char Dhams Act. Some Char Dhams Act, this is the Char Dhams, we will do Char Dhams. So there are basically religious sites of religious importance scattered along Uttarakhand. So an act was initiated which removed the control of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, which is close to BJP. Right, so they had a problem with that, the party over there. Then they are talking about the hijab row, they are talking about the Uniform Civil Code. I'll come to that Uniform Civil Code. There is also a reference of Kumaon region. So you should know Kumaon Himalayas, where are they located as compared to Greater Himalayas, Lesser Himalayas. Do this on the map. I actually saw it, but I want you to see for yourself. Find it on the Atlas, not your website thing. Find it on your Atlas and search. This will help you with your prelims. Okay, now what came to my mind with reference to Uttarakhand was in news quite a lot, especially with reference to Prime Minister Modi's, who focused on Kedarnath. So a lot of infrastructure development was there, a lot of announcements were made about Kedarnath, and thereby comes to attention the issue of Char Dhams. So what is this Char Dhams? So Char Dhams is basically, again there are two Char Dhams. So one is a Char Dham that was introduced by Adi Shankaracharya, very important philosopher, also referred to in your 7th NCERT. But this Char Dham is different from the Char Dham of Uttarakhand. So let us do the Uttarakhand one first. So Char Dham is basically 4. Char means 4, right? And Dham. Dham means place or abode. So here is, I took it from the net. And abode of what? What does abode mean, by the way? Abode is the place where one resides. For example, this is my abode, right? So abode. So abode of God. Char Dham, abode of God, or sites where God are there. So we have 4 sites in Uttarakhand which are particularly important: Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri and Yamunotri. So Badrinath is with Lord Vishnu, Kedarnath is with Lord Shivji, and Gangotri and Yamunotri is with Goddess Shakti. Right? So these are certain things that you need to know. Okay. Now, as I said before, that this 4, and this literally came to my thinking also, that see, I have studied Char Dhams, and this is a different Char Dham as to what I did in the NCERT, or what you would do in the NCERT, right? So Adi Shankara said that there are 4 sites, Char Dham, and these are Puri, Rameshwaram, Dwarka and Badrinath. So let's do it on the map roughly. So Puri is somewhere in Orissa, right? Not somewhere, it's very close to the capital. So Puri. And what is there in Puri? Jagannath temple, very important again for your prelims. Then Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu. Then Dwarka in Gujarat and Badrinath in Uttarakhand. 4 important sites. And I think I'll give you some more idea about this. So if you notice carefully, these are 4 sites which are scattered, which are on the periphery of our map, geographical map of India, right? So somewhere, we say that Shankaracharya had played a role in unifying the country. So we say this, that because he said that if one has to achieve moksha, salvation, if one had to be with one had to be with one supreme being. So supreme being like the Brahma, so one had to be with that person, with that supreme being, then one required Gyan Marg. And to get Gyan Marg, one had to visit all these places and learn the different Vedas. So as a result, one had to go from one place to another. This led to cultural integration of the country and people to people contact. So in that way, played a role in unification of the country. And likewise with religion also, he said, Jagat Mitya Brahm Satya. That is, the entire world is an illusion. Only truth is Brahma, and that is the supreme God. There may be different gods. Like in Hindu religion also, there are different gods, and different religions also there are different gods, naturally. But all of them are under the umbrella of Brahma. Simple. Jagat Mitya Brahm Satya, you need Gyan Marg. For Gyan Marg, you need to go to different places. So this is the original, these are the Char Dhams. And Uttarakhand has its own Char Dham, which is also known as the Chota Char Dham. Right? So this is it. And again, if you look at with this, Char Dham played a role in tourism. So religious tourism, religious circuit. Okay. Now we are with reference to Chandernagore. French heritage awaits facelift. There is this building in a poor state of affairs, right? It is known as the Registry Building, constructed by the French in 1875. So this is in a bad state, and they are looking we are looking at this as an important heritage which reminds us of the French people being there. It reminds of the colonial culture, that heritage of that place. and they want to restore it, and they are having people from hotel industry, tourism industry, so they want to have cafes, restaurant, boutique hotel, and I don't know what is a boutique hotel, by the way, right? So they want to do this and maintain the original structure as it is. So basically they want to maintain the structure, but at the same time they want to make it economically viable. Okay, so this is there. And beyond Chandernagore, so this was this settlement of Chandernagore was established in 1696, and you know it is a French settlement. Okay, then beyond this there are certain other sites also. So this is an heritage site, but there are certain other sites also that needs to be restored. They need to be brought under the umbrella of heritage. They are also important. So here I have a question before you. Safeguarding the Indian architectural heritage is the need of the moment. Discuss. Right? So this is the question before you. Okay, before going ahead with the question, let me just give you a brief background. You know, when you had studied about the Battle of Plassey, if you have studied about the Battle of Plassey, where the British East India Company defeated the French, and not the French, East India Company defeated the Nawab of Bengal. Who was the Nawab of Bengal? Siraj-ud-Dowla. So there was a tension going on between, I'll tell you where does this come. So when there was a tension going on between the East India Company and Siraj-ud-Dowla before the Battle of Plassey, Siraj-ud-Dowla had instructed that no fortification will be done. So they had their settlement in Hooghly, Kolkata, the East India Company, and the French had there in Chandernagore. So French abided by the orders of the Nawab, but they didn't. And this led to the fight. So that is where we refer to the Chandernagore when we study the modern history. And here I have a list of various sites over here, and you know, you can read this EFP, England, French, Portuguese. So those sites are mentioned over here. So these could be important. You need to have a brief idea about it. That's all. Okay, now coming back to the question, safeguarding the Indian architectural heritage is the need of the moment. And I'll tell you, there was a question actually in 2018, Indian art heritage is the need of the moment. So I have architectural heritage. Okay, now when you are writing this, first of all, what is the meaning of heritage? Simple question. What is the meaning of heritage? Simple. Heritage. In Hindi we say virasat. Something that we have inherited. Inherited from whom? Inherited from our ancestors. It tells us as to who we are. It reflects our identity. It tells us how we came to our present being. Therefore, heritage is important. And here we are looking at our heritage from architectural point of view. And when I say architecture, we refer to the buildings and structures like this one. Right, we have Qutub Minar, we have Taj Mahal. So these are all architectural heritage that we have. Okay, now when we have a question like this, so safeguarding is one thing that we have to protect, but the thing arises, there are certain questions that we need to mention when we say discuss. So first of all, what? Right, a brief line or two. What is this Indian architectural heritage? Why do we need to protect this? Is it under danger? And how can we do? Has somebody done before government doing something about this? Everything has to be mentioned within the framework, and this is basically the analysis that you have to do. Now I'll give you some insights over here. So first of all, you can start by giving a reference to this. We have number of important buildings, number of important structures, right? You can give the importance that it reflects our heritage, it reflects our identity. You can give by stating an example. For example, in Calcutta, there is Victoria Memorial. We have the Gateway of India, right? Gateway of India in Bombay. We have the India Gate. And somewhere it symbolizes our struggle, our past. It reflects upon who we are, right? So it is important. And we need to protect it. If we do not, then it will go in bad shape. It will be in bad shape, and ultimately we will also lose our own identity. So it's important to protect. Okay. It reflects upon our culture, how it has evolved. For instance, when we refer to the architecture also, we may say that this is a colonial building, right? So Gothic style colonial buildings are there. Or when we refer to the Red Fort area and the in Delhi area, so when we refer to that medieval structures, feudal structures, so we may say that this is Indo-Islamic architecture. Or we may look at the temples, ancient temples of India. So ancient temples, ancient structures that are found, or Harappan civilization, urban settlements that were there. So somewhere it reflects upon the evolution of a culture, our legacy of our past ancestors, and how it has percolated before us. And somewhere all of this has a role in defining our modern day architecture, our culture, our taste and preferences, right? Okay. It also reflects the value of unity in diversity. For example, same culture, same time being, we may find different regions have different types of architecture. So we reflect a diversity, but somewhere we find a common trace. For example, if you study that NCERT, 11th NCERT, so there you will refer to the Indian Indo-Islamic architecture, and you will find how it is Islam. Everything is Indo-Islamic period. That is the Delhi Sultans and the Mughals. So their architecture, more or less, elements were common, but we find variations, some regional differences across different regions. Then we have spiritual structures, we have secular structures, and above all, when your structures are there, right, it will pave a way for tourism. Tourism will be there, economic activity will increase, it will attract people. Europe is doing it so well, why can't we? Right. Now comes the question, what measures can be taken, and before that, what has been done in the past? And this is something that will help you with your pre as well. So first of all, the sequence first of all, we have this archaeological survey of India. Right, we have legislative protections which protects our important sites. So ASI is given that responsibility. Then there is this initiative. For example, I refer to Europe. Europe, you want to go because you want to, yes, religious sites, very important, but good infra is there. You feel it will be neat and clean. But if you go think about a site in India, you will feel there will be unhygiene, you need to drink Bisleri water and all those things. So we have a poor infra, and that leads to a blockage. It is not attractive for tourists to come to a country, or within the country as well. That is Indians going to different places. So for that, we are looking at improving the urban infra, that too in the sites of religious importance. So the scheme name is Hriday. So here is this, you can take a screenshot, and there are some sites that are mentioned over here. So naturally the sites under Hriday are naturally important because government is giving priority to them, right? So there are certain sites and the names, the things that are associated with this, so you need to know about them. And again, you see Puri is mentioned over here. Okay, so this is there. Then we are also seeing the government focusing on religious tourism, Ramayana circuit, Buddhist circuit, right? So we have circuits and circuits, so many other things. So religious tourism, and again when we look at the religious tourism, we have Hriday and we have Prasad. Homework, refer what is Prasad now and under which ministry is it, Prasad as well as Hriday. Okay, then we have Adopt a Heritage Scheme. So this is an initiative given by the Archaeological Survey, ASI. So basically it invites people, only the government cannot do things alone. It needs support, it needs participation of private and public sector organization. So they play a very important role. They identify some important monuments and they adopt a monument, and therefore they are known as monument mitras. That is, mitra means friend. So they use various technologies to improve the quality of the structure and at the same time make it economically viable, right? By means of ticket, by means of having shows, lighting, light shows, whatever. So that can be done. So I've marked some of this innovation and technology interventions. and they can also use your fundings under the CSR, corporate social responsibility. So it is mandatory in a country. So the CSR can be used in improving the monuments. So this is coming under the Ministry of Tourism, right? So adopt a heritage. Now here again, one thing that was coming to my mind when we were doing this, that there is an initiative known as INTACH. I don't know if it is INTAC or INTACH, but there is definitely this initiative, and this is something that is of great importance for prelims. Okay, so this organization, what it does is, it identifies sites. There are certain heritage sites, right? So there are sites that are marked by the ASI, but there are a lot of other sites in a country which are not yet recognized. So INTACH, which is a non-profit charitable organization registered under Societies Registration Act. That means it is not a government agency, it is a not-for-profit or an NGO organization. So they identify sites of historical importance, heritage importance, and they push the Survey of India, Archaeological Survey, in recognizing those sites. That is the role that they play. So such NGOs, such initiatives need to be encouraged. Right, so this is what you can write in your answer. Right, so here is the detail, and furthermore, this you need to keep in mind that this organization has special consultative status with UNESCO, United Nations Economic and Social Council, not UNESCO, but yes, this organization. Now, this is a logo that attracted me, and I remember studying about this. So this is something that I think you need to know about this. So they have a logo based on the anthropomorphic copper figure. So I'll tell you a brief history about this. You can read it also. So, after the decline of the Harappas, Harappa was a Bronze Age civilization. So suddenly we find increase in number of sites that were Chalcolithic. Chalcolithic means Stone Age and Copper Age. So there we find lot of tools. In a certain place we found lot of tools that were made of copper. So we call this as copper hoards. So copper hoards of the Ganga Valley. And amongst this was something that was quite unique that was found. So anthropomorphic copper figure, some sort of creativity instead of trying to show a human being in this way. Some people actually believe that this is a fishing hook. It doesn't look like that, but yes, so this is what it is. So primitive man's creative genius. Rescuing runaway children from Delhi's railway station. This is there, but I have converted this into a mains format, and here is this question of ours. Let's quickly do what was there in the news, and then we'll come back to the question. Okay. So Delhi, as you know, it's a hub, right? This is a place from people from everywhere and anywhere are there in Delhi. So what is happening is that large number of children are rescued in Delhi. So they were escaping from one place or another, because there was a child who was working in a restaurant in Nagrota in Jammu. So he had escaped, he boarded a train and somehow entered into Delhi. So like this large number of children, about 200 children were there. So somebody who was in child labor, somebody who was a victim of human trafficking, somebody who was working in inhumane working conditions. So they were trying to save themselves, and more or less the trains are marching towards Delhi. So there were children, they were there, and they have been rescued by organizations. So by Railway Protection Force, by NGOs, Prayas. So these initiatives have been able to protect the child. And what did they do with the child? They sent them to Child Welfare Committee. These are things that you can actually quote in your case studies also. So child was protected, rescued, they was identified. Then, you find some child who's disillusioned, what to do, what not to do. So they are taken to the Child Welfare Committee, and then they look into this issue, and then the attempt is made to rehabilitate the child, repatriate and rehabilitate the child. So that is the system around there. Now here is my question. COVID-19 worsened the child migration crisis in India. Same statement. Elaborating the crisis, state the safeguards in place to secure child rights in India. Okay, So basically, child migration crisis is not, it's always there, right? But what has COVID-19 done? And what is the reason for child migration? Again, it is human bad working conditions, high poverty, right? So because of poverty, sometimes the child goes away to a different place, starts working over there in a different place for better income or to support the family, or they are victims of trafficking or human trafficking, prostitution, whatever. So this is there. Now COVID-19 in particularly, as we all know, it has lockdown and other things. It has affected the society like anything. It has increased the poverty. Industries have been shut down, informal workers have been affected, and this has further worsened the child migration crisis. Okay, so this you elaborate. Now, what measures have been taken? But before this, I have this NCRB data with reference to obviously child migration. I didn't find a fact, maybe some unofficial sources, but NCRB I have facts about the crimes, because here somewhere we are looking at child migration, but child migrations are to do with crimes also against children, like poverty, torture, escaping torture, inhuman working conditions. So when you are violative of the Child Labour Act also, so it is a crime again. It will come under the category of crime. Trafficking is again anything that is registered, it comes under the category of crime. So here is the data that I have over here. Okay, now with reference to child protection, I was doing some research, and there are some 5 P's in child protection. So this was from the government of Malawi, Africa. So they say with reference to child protection, there are 5 P's. You can note down: prevention, paramountcy. Paramountcy means to give it most importance, paramount, absolute importance. Partnership. Partnership would mean what? Partnership with different stakeholders, right? Government, non-government organizations, government of different states, international. So partnership. Protection and parental responsibility. Then we have some steps that can be taken with reference to stopping the child labor. These are all related topics. Now some steps that the government has taken, both legal and administrative steps to address child abuse. Now all of this is from PIB over here, right? So we have the Juvenile Justice Act, we have the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. Then there was a commission formed known as National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Child Labour Act was introduced to prohibit employment of children below the age of 14. Right of children to free and compulsory education. So what will happen? If education is being provided, with education comes midday meal, right? So the burden on the family is getting reduced. The children is getting educated. So it will stop the migration and the trafficking of children. Integrated Child Protection Scheme, Ujjwala. So I think you can read about this. That is why I'm not elaborating. I've kept the font as large as possible. Right? If you can't, you just take a screenshot now. Okay, so this you can do, right? So these are certain things. Carings is for adoption related activities. So, or making the system of adoption more transparent. Now, few days back, right? So Saturday, Sunday, we don't do the DNA. So Friday, I think, Friday or Thursday. So we had referred to the railway police force. They have initiated a program known as Operation Aaht. I don't know the Hindi this thing. So AAHT. So this has been introduced where the Railway Police Protection Force, knowing about the issue of trafficking and the railways playing an important role in connecting the country. So they will use their protection force to identify children who are the victims of trafficking. Right, this question is please important, please do it. Yeah, now coming to the Education Plus. So this is actually good because we have a lot of inputs with reference to education. It's an important theme. And coming to the education thing, these days we have 2 things. Actually before these days also, then I'll tell you something. So earlier our government was looking at universalization of education. That is, everybody gets access to education, and the dropout rates, when the children are working, so at the higher classes, there are dropouts. That is, children move away from schooling system, dropout. And specifically in the girls, this is there. So this is their high dropout rates. What we are finding, and this is a theme that I believe is important, is quality of education. Somewhere we have been, if you look at the universal enrollment in today's time, it's much better, it's very good. But the problem arises with reference to quality of education. So this is something that needs an improvement. So this is one way of looking at the education thing. So when we talk about education, again, quality, we have to look at the issue of pedagogy, that is the syllabus, that is how we are teaching. For example, I am teaching you in a particular way, but this will not be applicable if I am teaching a child from 12th standard. In fact, I did teach for an exam, right? So for 12th, it will be different. For CLAT, it will be different. Even if I am teaching GS or at a nursery level, that will be different. Right, so this is their pedagogy, teacher training, those things have to be given focus upon. Okay, so this is one thing, and then because of the pandemic and the digital divide, how it is affecting. Now this is the third theme where it is talking merely about the pedagogy aspect and with reference to the modern day system in the post-lockdown scenario, post-COVID, how will we go ahead with the education? Right, so here you can, I actually wanted you to read this. So like we are looking at offline education, online education, we are talking about this. We are looking at that some children, the school is opened. So some students are in the school, some are to manage the load. So some students are there in the school and some are studying from the home, and likewise the rotation is going on. Then there is something known as blended learning, where we have components of both offline as well as online. And this is actually something much closer to what we are doing when I share questions before you and I tell you that please do research on this topic, right? So that is basically blended learning, where we say that the content is not the key anymore. Content, where the teacher is obviously teaching, but content is not the key. But what is key is inculcating the thought process, the thinking process. So that is the key, and the teacher is basically kind of a facilitator. He's facilitating learning, and he or she is using the online modes, and so that they can get the content, they can be given some work, and they research from the net or whatever online tools, and they come back. Right. So this is what they are talking about here. Then using certain other technologies like breakout rooms when you have online classes, so that the groups can collaborate and work together. Right, so this is there actually. Yes. Now we are on the CORD, and with reference to CORD, I had shared a question earlier. So this was a past year question where I said that the CORD, I didn't say, UPSC said, and I was saying it for a very long time actually. CORD is not just a military alliance, but it is much more than that. Something to that effect, a statement is there that was asked in UPSC. So we had to discuss or comment on that. Now we have an editorial on CORD, and there was a meeting that took place in Melbourne. Melbourne is in Australia. And by the way, which city is the capital of Australia? Right, write in the comment section. Okay. So we have certain things that were done in the CORD over here. So let me just give you a brief overview, and please read the question also. CORD remains very much a grouping that is for something and not against somebody. Critically examine. So when we say somebody, we are referring to China. So and this is basically this statement over here, because I find sometimes contextual statements are given and then you are expected to discuss or comment, and that becomes difficult, so might as well prepare right away. So one is this, and other thing is about that CORD countries, that is India, right? That is India, Australia, Japan and USA. So these countries, they have some core values, but at the same time they do not have an identical worldview. In fact, this is again something that you can comment upon, right? So just note down this statement and write comment. So this will actually address all your answer over here. So let me just give you a brief overview, and that will help, because whatever they keep saying, and if I have done this, this will be a good revision. Okay. So what is happening is basically we have India, Australia, right? I'm writing it from geography point of view, India, Australia, Japan, and USA. So these countries are there, and all of them have some concern or the other with China. So earlier we used to have military exercise between India, USA, then it became India, Japan, USA. This was known as the Malabar exercise, Malabar from Kerala actually. Right, so this was a naval exercise, and then it came to be known as Quad. Right, so Quad 4. So Australia was also part of it. Now all of them have some tension or the other with China, and things are not too good. Okay. So first of all, with reference to China, what we see in the recent times is, first things first, there is a South China Sea dispute that is going on. So you see these blue lines, right? Blue. These are basically known as the 9-dash lines. So China says that this entire territory, notwithstanding the claims of Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, right? All these countries over here, 10 countries. 10 countries are there, right? So these countries, it should ideally belong to these countries over here. So China says that we have a map, historical map, and according to this has been our traditional waters, and we continue to exercise our right, and we do not recognize the claim of other countries. So they claim this entire territory as this. Philippines went and they complained. So we have an international system where we have international courts or arbitration where we can contest each other. So there is something known as Permanent Court of Arbitration, and this is in Hague. Now PCA was asked, and likewise PCA we have the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice. So read these and see what is the difference between each of these institutions. They'll be on the same wiki page only because they're located nearby only. Okay, so Permanent Court of Arbitration, which is not a part of UN. So they gave a judgment that was not in favor of China. They said that this claim is, we cannot agree with this. This is not acceptable. The sea belongs to these regions according to United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. I have a video on this, short video, right? So according to the UNCLOS. So this is based, or this is it. Okay. So PCA has given a judgment, and as we see in India's context also, when a court gives a judgment, that judgment has to be complied with. China says we do not accept this judgment and we will not agree with this. So what is happening? We are seeing China not going according to the rules-based order. Right? Everything has to be go according with the rule if countries have to work together and with peace. So China is not accepting the rules-based order, and that is problematic. And furthermore, this is the first issue. If China claims entire territory as theirs, and what if they start blocking other countries? What if India wants to trade and go to Taiwan or Japan? How will they go? So China may block access. So it may affect freedom of navigation, and sea is something that is globally common, right? Apart from that international territory, it more or less it is common, including the exclusive economic zone. These are international waters. Likewise, USA has a concern. Likewise, other countries have a concern. So the other issue is navigation, freedom of navigation on international waters. Rule-based order has with reference to the international rules with reference to sea, UNCLOS. The law of the sea. Then we have the judgments with reference to this. Otherwise, countries will start fighting. If they do not agree with this, then other thing is you fight and take claim, use navy and the military, etc. So we want peaceful resolution of disputes. So this is the main issue over here. Now USA is very happy this problem is going on, and actually, though they will say that they are not happy with this, because this allows USA to champion against these other countries and have greater presence in these areas and curtail China, contain China, China containment, or the pivot to Asia policy. That is, from Middle East, they are now pivoting towards the Chinese region, right? If you play basketball, you pivot on your foot, you don't move from there and you look elsewhere from that perspective only. Okay, so this is it actually. Now coming back to this question over here. So naturally, if you see, no matter what wordings that they use, India, these Quad members, some way or the other it is directed towards China, right? Freedom of navigation, rule-based order. They don't specifically say China. They don't specifically say China, but it is definitely, there is a reference of China over here. Now in the recent times what we find is, and by the way, China says that this is reflective of Cold War mentality, right? This is aimed at containing China, it is targeting us. India and other countries do not refer to China directly because again, no country wants a confrontation with such a mega power over here, including USA. So this is the issue over here. Okay, so this is it. Now what we see is that we find that CORD has, it is not just about freedom of navigation or the rule-based order. We find, and it is referred over here, you can see rules-based order or free building a region that is free from coercion. Whose coercion? China's coercion, right? So this is there. Advance a free and open Indo-Pacific, again a reference to China, right? So these are all again targeted at China, and please refer to the statement, this writes critically examine. That is, at least I don't agree with this view. So we have to bring all the perspectives over here in that 250 words, this thing. Now what we are finding is that CORD expanded into a anti-China alliance, which no country wants to openly say it. But we find that the role of the CORD has been expanding. We find that the role of the CORD is expanding. So now recently there was a meeting in Melbourne and they said that we have come out with a positive agenda, and please note down this is in inverted commas. So positive agenda in the Indo-Pacific region. We are working on improving the vaccine coverage in this region. We are looking at improving the supply chain in the Indo-Pacific region. So Indo-Pacific clean energy supply chain. So again, they have merged energy supply chain and climate change together. Then CORD vision for technology governance, safe and transparent 5G systems. Again, this is China. So telecom, China has an advantage in the hardware sector. So Huawei's chair had also been arrested in Canada or US, right? So 5G systems, so that is independent of China. China can get all your data, all your hardware today is based on China, what is being made in China. So they can have your data, they can control your things, your planes or whatever, and create a havoc in case of a war. And likewise, disaster relief operations. Then we are also seeing India had persuaded the CORD members to also talk about cross-border terrorism. Now, like with cross-border terrorism, we mean Pakistan, right? Whenever India says. So likewise, more of these statements are targeted at China, but not openly said. Now, what we see is that these leaders, they have an alliance. We see India, Japan, US and Australia, they have a common interest. One common interest is quite evident. China. Then they want to have greater cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. This is Indo-Pacific region, right? Then Asia-Pacific region. So they want to have greater cooperation. They want to collaborate with one another. And one way of looking at it is that when you want to work together, let's say even if it is for security perspective, if you're working on multiple fronts, right? Let's say in terms of disaster response, 5G, creating infra in the connectivity region, creating an alternative against China. China has a lot of money power and has been funding infra in these regions. So there is an influence of China because somebody is giving you money, so you have to comply with that. But if there is an alternative, then it will create a balance over here, right? So it becomes easy for the countries to collaborate. There is a much larger interest to work upon. So the bonding will be much better. Okay. So this is there. So basically now we find that they have a common agenda over here. But what we see is that in terms of geopolitical tensions, like in Myanmar, there is the democratic government was there in Myanmar and that has been taken away, right? This is Myanmar over here. And again, prelims is coming, so I'm telling you, what is the Mekong Ganga? Where is Mekong river? And which of the rivers from Myanmar enter into the northeast India? Yeah. So with Myanmar, what is happening? There was a democratic government and that has been removed by the military government known as Janta. So there is a military dictatorship known as Janta. So with reference to this, Myanmar, the West-led group, that is USA, has imposed a sanction on Myanmar. That means now India cannot work together. And with Myanmar, what we see is, we do not like this, that if we cannot engage with the military government over here, then China gets an undue advantage, because China is anyways going to do it. So China is going to get their infra projects done, and it will enter into the Indian Ocean region, which is detrimental to India's interest, right? So this is not acceptable. So India is not in favor of this West-led sanctions. Then with reference to Ukraine, so US, Australia, Japan, they are very closely knit together. So with reference to Ukraine crisis, they have a very strong view against Russia, while India and Russia have close ties and India wants to balance the relationship, right? So we find that India doesn't agree with the threat of imminent invasion. So with reference to Ukraine. Then on China's amassing troops at the border with India was also a subtle reminder to Quad members that while they may have similar concerns, they share many core values. They do not have an identical worldview. I think this you can comment upon. This one will require a bit of skill. That is, you have to present the aspect that it is targeted. At the same time, it is not targeted, right? Because no direct reference is there. Then it is more than a military alliance where we find initiatives of various types over here, right? So this has to be mentioned, right? Next is with reference to electronics manufacturing, and she is Gunjan Krishna, IAS Commissioner. Okay, so let's do this quickly. So let's do the question right away. Self-reliance in design and manufacturing is the key to digital sovereignty. Elucidate. State the measures needed to realize this goal. So self-reliance in design and manufacturing. Manufacturing of electronics and semiconductors. Please add this. Okay, so this is clear. Design and manufacturing has to be done. What does digital sovereignty means? Digital sovereignty means control of the people, control of the government, control of India with reference to electronics. That is it. Now here we were looking at the 5G thing. So if the 5G is being made by the Chinese, it will affect it. What if Indian military is using the 5G and we are in war with China? So our systems may be compromised remotely by them, right? So this may affect. It may be with reference to national security. That means it may be with reference to India's economic interest. What if China or some other country which is in lot of, specifically China actually, which has lot of control over these raw materials and other things, what if they say that we are not going to supply, you said something against us? So economic security is again part of national security. Likewise, it is affecting our fiscal space. We are importing most of it. Right, money is getting drawn into the, we are importing electronics manufacturing and other things. So our money is going outside of a country. So in many ways we can link these to digital sovereignty over here. Okay, state the measures needed to realize this goal. So these are the measures over here. And these are certain things that the government has done recently, right? So 15 December 2021. Plus I refer to this this website of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And you can see this list over here. These are the things that the government is doing with reference to electronics. Right. So we'll come to what the government has been doing. So basically what she's saying is, and we'll merge these two together. So we have this semiconductors are very, very important, and it's of great importance from digital sovereignty. But with the pandemic, the supply of electronics has been, not electronics, the supply of semiconductors, which is required for electronics, right? Electronics in, again, automobiles, electronics in computers and gadgets, you name it, right? So that has been affected. So more or less, almost every sector of the economy has been affected by this shortage of semiconductors. And as a result of this, USA has come up with a scheme, $50 billion package, that electronics and semiconductor manufacturing should take place in USA. Likewise, we did it recently that European Union is also working to that effect. And India itself has announced a $10 billion package, not in the budget because we have it here, right? So 10 billion USD approved for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem in India. Now coming to India. So we have this, and we have to do this because this is the core of the fourth industrial revolution technologies. What is this fourth industrial revolution? More of digitization, more of big data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. So all of this actually constitutes the fourth industrial revolution. And for that to take place, we need to have self-reliance in design and manufacturing of semiconductors and electronics. Okay, so first of all, we know that the government came up with the production-linked incentive scheme. Likewise, design-linked incentive scheme for attracting big companies to invest in our country and set up their plants, right? So what are we doing basically? We are setting up fabrication units. What is fabrication? Getting fab manufacturing. What is fabrication? Fabrication is basically assembling, making things. That is fabrication, right? So kind of manufacturing. So fabrication. So what she says is, if we encourage fabrication, we are incentivizing in a way. If fabrication takes place in the country, they may prefer to have more emphasis on research and development within the country itself. Then there is a fact with reference to the demand for semiconductors. So this stands at $24 billion. So you can write your answer this in the intro. And this is expected to grow to $80 to $90 billion per year. Okay, so fabrication is there. Now, what else needs to be done is, right, you can have this, that these are the steps that are required to be done. What if we have to do fabrication in a country, that is something is to be made, we need to have raw materials for that. But raw materials have been dominated by which country? China in particular, right? So it is with China, we need to improve that. And furthermore, we need to improve our capacity of processing raw materials and gases for assembly, testing, marking and packaging. Okay, so this is there. Now if you want to attract people so that they come to your country, right? So what do? You need to create something like a pre-existing infrastructure, that please you come here and everything will be available to you. And what things should be available? Infrastructure, land, right? What infra? Power, road connectivity, port connectivity, raw materials are available, skilled manpower is available. So all of this has to be made available. Further, there is a reference of ultra pure water for electronics, it is required, right? So this should be there. And what else can be done? FDIs need to be encouraged. Now, if you want people to design, we have a lot of startups that are coming up and specifically in design this thing. So if you want people to design, Indians have been designing, but it is for other companies. And many of them who design, actually they go to Singapore or Silicon Valley and then they get their patent, because patent protection is much better. The rights of the innovator is much more valued over there. So we need to change the intellectual property regime. We need to improve that, right? Then only the design component will improve. And furthermore, we need to look at public institutions. So public institutions like Indian Institute of Science, there is this reference of IISc Bangalore, Indian Institute of Technology, the academia and industry can work together. Maybe they can fund the research component, or the research component can be given to these agencies and they can do. And here again, the focus has been on, the government must give more focus on emerging technologies like LiDAR. Like these Chinese phones have this LiDAR. LiDAR is, it basically senses the distance. So for measuring, these days this measuring app is also there with you. Put your phone at a particular place, you can see it. I think you can refer to the Apple ad also on this, Apple mobiles. So LiDAR and phase array, something to do with antenna. We don't have to fix the antenna. I don't think we need to do this. So antenna has to point in a particular direction. So here the computer does something and it provides this system. So such technology should be encouraged. So LIDAR is mentioned here, right? Phased array is mentioned in the news. So you need to know more about this. Okay, so if you see this is quite holistic over here. Now here I have specific what the government is doing. So we have the 76,000 crore, which amounts to $10 billion, sizable amount, right? So this is there, and here again it is talking about digital sovereignty, then providing skilled workforce, which is important for demographic dividend in a country. We have more youthful population, so they'll get employed. It will make India Atmanirbhar. Okay, so from the same PIB, this is, this format is different because this is the word that I took. So we have this India Semiconductor mission that has been introduced. So that will be set up. That will be led by global experts in semiconductor and display industry. Then comprehensive fiscal support for semiconductor and electronics. We have the PLI schemes. We have the design linked incentive scheme also. Right, we have the SPECS scheme. SPECS scheme is specific to semiconductors manufacturing, scheme for promotion of manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors. Right, so here are these schemes. I have marked these in the bold. You can read about this. And it will help contribute India in achieving its goal of $5 trillion GDP by 2025. Right, and this is important again, right? So this you should know from pre-perspective also. Bird monitoring team records 203 species, right? Some species are listed over here, and this is with reference to Mysore or Mysuru. So Hardinaru Lake is there, and where is it located? It is in Mysuru. So what happened over here? There was a survey conducted, and the survey is known as Winter Bird Monitoring Program. So these are things that we need to keep in mind. And you know what? The 2014 prelims, 2013 was also more of this eco component, but 2014 they asked a lot of questions on birds. So birds, wildlife, so this is important. So with reference to this, I have this thing. This will help you with your pre. So this monitoring winter bird monitoring program. So this is conducted because I wanted to know who conducts this, which is the agency, and this is important. So this is conducted in the second week of January every year, and this has been doing for last 25 years. So this is way back in 1987 in Mysuru. So Mysore specific this is. And beyond this, the sites that are being mentioned over here, and I think we did this earlier also, we refer to a site known as Basai. This is in the NCR region. So Basai Sanctuary, which is important for bird watching. So it is an important bird area. Now these are important bird areas with reference to Karnataka over here. Right, now what is this important bird areas? Who says it? Is it UN who's doing it, or the government of India? Who does this? These are important. So important bird areas are sites of international importance for the conservation of birds and their habitats. And this concept was developed by BirdLife International, right? So this was done by them. And international bird areas are practical networks of conservation. So basically they say, fine, this site is important, this site is important. And when they say, this is not a UNESCO or anything like UNESCO natural heritage sites are there. These are not-for-profit organizations who have earmarked that these sites are important. And somewhere when they say, it gives lot of pressure, it puts pressure on the government or the agency in protecting that, right? It draws the attention of the people with reference to it. So practical networks of conservation. And in fact, what I know about this also is that BirdLife International specifically, they are not like within this there are a number of NGOs that are working together. Right, so it's a network of various organizations. Therefore, there is this word partnership over here. This was again asked in the prelims. Bombay Natural History Society. So, as a partner designate of whom the BirdLife International, Bombay Natural History Society successfully corroborated the data, and it provided some information with reference to IBS sites. These are, I mean, we just had this. So these are all additional information over here. Right then, so this concludes our analysis for today. right? So this is it, and I'm trying very much to make this sooner, but with all the value addition, sometimes it takes more time over here. Right then, so this is it from my side. Bye bye, take care, and all the best. And please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Bye bye.